And I repeat, I advise every voter, when you cast your vote, I advise you to go home. We'll discuss it. We'll discuss it. This is what I said, and what I said to you, or what I said to the stakeholders, to the politicians in particular, is advise against instructions and directives that will threaten the conduct of the election. That is why I'm also advising. And this advice I'm giving is resulting from what I observe in the provisions of Section 129 of the Electoral Act. 9 different types of offenses are listed therein. And if you stay back, there is the likelihood of you committing one of those 9 offenses.
It is a quote that law entry
The Inspector General of Police there further emphasizing his stance on the conduct of the electorate and the rescheduled March 28 election. I'm joined now by our Abuja correspondent, Pius Samuel, who was at that particular National Stakeholder Summit at the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning, Pius.
Yeah, good morning, Mr.
Would you say that the position of the IGP is advisory or is rather mandatory on the conduct of the electorate this Saturday?
Well, what the IG was actually saying was that electorate, after casting their vote, should stay clear to the polling units. And he was actually relying on a section of the Constitution. I don't really have it handy right now.
He talks about Section 129,
yes,
thereabout.
That is advisable that after casting the vote, you just leave the polling booth or polling units, go back to your house and wait for the results rather than loitering around. So when you loiter around, there are possibilities that you're going to commit 1 or 2 offenses.
Oh, I'm afraid we lost that call. We'll put a call through to Pius and find out details, especially the reaction of stakeholders at that meeting yesterday in Abuja. Many are saying that it is the right of every electorate to stay at least 300 meters around the polling unit, and especially what the tradition and culture has been that after voting, especially what the politicians have told us, that it is not enough to vote, but you have to defend your vote, and that means staying back to listen to them count and ensure that everything is done accordingly. We'll open the phone lines for you to also hear your view and have your opinion on this issue and what you think should be the right way to go. Now, you recall that this is not the first time that the IGP is talking about this, and the position of INEC has also been that voters, as long as they are not tampering with the peaceful conduct of the election, can be around. Hello, Pius, are you there? Pius, are you there? Hello, Pius? Okay, we'll keep trying to find the opinion of our Abuja correspondent on exactly what transpired there yesterday, especially the opinion of stakeholders like political parties that did have their representatives present at that meeting. And I believe INEC also was well represented and put these in proper perspective and find out what is expected of the Nigerian electorate on Saturday. Hello, Pius Samuel. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you.
What then was the position of other stakeholders that were present? Was INEC present in that particular meeting?
Can you come back again, please? What were you saying?
Was INEC represented at that meeting, Pius?
Hello.
I can hear you, Pius. I'm asking if INEC was present in that meeting.
Yes, INEC was there.
What?
The INEC chairman was there.
Okay. Did the
Yeah.
INEC chairman react or make any particular contribution to the IGP stance?
Well, the INEC chairman was indifferent.
Okay.
Was different. He was just particular about, and if there is any need for them to wait, they should wait peacefully. But he wasn't so particular about what the IG said.
Okay, don't you think this is probably putting the electorate in some sort of unsure or uncertain decision what step to take really and what is expected of them after voting on Saturday?
Well, what I discovered, in order to have a crisis, like we the election, in order to avoid crisis, the Inspector General was of the opinion that people should vote and go. But if anybody thinks otherwise, you know, the stakeholders there were, so some were in support of it, some were not in support of it. So it was a dicey situation, you know, and let's just hope the election comes and go peacefully. That's just our hope.
It's all right. The front page story on The Guardian this morning says soldiers storm states FCT ahead of elections. What exactly can you see? Are there indeed any military presence on the streets of Abuja?
No, the situation in the federal is still normal. There are no soldiers as such, but some of the major checkpoints that have been on ground for some time are still the same checkpoints that are on ground. But any other checkpoints for now, no, there's no such thing in the federal capital.
It's all right. Thank you very much for joining us today. Pius Samuel is Core TV News correspondent covering Abuja, and we'll also hope to hear more from you in the course of time. We'll open the phone lines in a short while to find out what your opinion is as regards the stance of the IGP, especially now that it's less than 72 hours to the rescheduled March 28 presidential election. As we count down to this election, I'm joined this morning by AKINTOYE BRANCO-RHODES. Is a member of the People's Democratic Party. As a matter of fact, I believe he was also a gubernatorial aspirant for the People's Democratic Party in Lagos. Good morning, sir, and thank you for finding time to join us today.
Morning.
What would be your thoughts, concerning the position of the IGP that voters should go home after having cast their vote?
Well, I think there seems to be a contradiction somewhere there, because the last we heard about voting and staying to defend votes was, I thought that was what the position of the INEC was. But I also heard this morning about the vote and go. I think INEC needs to clarify, and but the security. I think they need to confer with the INEC on what the electoral rules did say about this particular elections. Even though I think there is a bit of nervousness in the system, which is expected for such a seriously divided competition. But be that as it may, we still have to stay in the ambit of the law.
Well, your politicians have told us that it's not enough to vote, but defend your vote.
Yes.
Have you been able to clearly define to the electorate what it really means to defend one's vote?
Well, in the context of our democracy here and the fact of our development stage in the electoral process, we understand defending your votes to mean that voters should stay there until votes are counted and announced, and then we judge that as being truly fair and competitive. Now, that I think is still the wisest way in the context of our own kind of elections that we have. But with the new announcement this morning that vote and leave, I think the INEC needs to clarify so that we're all on the right side of the law.
Well, unfortunately, INEC chairman was also at the same forum where the IGP made that statement. This is the second time he's actually reiterating that position. And our correspondent who was there just said INEC chairman wasn't really particular about that statement as much as he was concerned about the peaceful conduct of the election.
Well, if that statement does not undermine the elections in any way, and it guarantees the peaceful conduct of elections, I think that's fair enough.
Given the precedence of the Nigerian police force, you recall what happened at the floor of the National Assembly, where certain lawmakers were tear-gassed. Would you say that this is not an issue that we should take very seriously?
Oh yeah, that we must take it seriously. The tear-gassing of lawmakers in any nation is a very serious matter. I mean, I don't think we've had the bottom of that yet. We haven't had the rest of that matter. I think there's some investigations going on and things, so I will just wait and see.
I'm saying now that if the IG now advises the electorate to go home, if the police could tear gas lawmakers, don't you think electorate should also watch out for all such statements from the police at this time?
As I said, I still rest this matter squarely with the umpire. The umpire for these elections is the INEC chairman, and he needs to urgently clarify. We only have hours to the elections. If it is the position of the law or electoral act on this election saying that vote and defend, that must stay.
Let's talk about the chances of your party ahead the polls. You contested for the PDP
governorship in Lagos State,
governorship primary in Lagos State, and you lost to the Jimmy Agbaje.
Yes.
Are you still very much in support of the party?
Oh, yes.
After that occurrence?
We're one party, one family, so we've overcome that and we've moved forward, and now we're concentrating on delivering Lagos from the shackles of the APC.
Some have said that you have a good candidate, but he is with the wrong party. Do you foresee, winning such an APC structure that has been there for 16 years, thereabout?
Well, democracy is always about challenging status quo. So if that's what the game is about, of course, we believe that we have what it takes. We put it in place. We've galvanized the support of the people to ensure a total victory. We know that the APC has overstayed in Lagos, as you journalists also must know, if you're going to be very objective. But that can be wishful thinking until there's actually transfer of power. That's what we're
If your thinking is that 16 years is overstay, is it logical as well to say that PDP has overstayed its welcome at the federal government level?
Well, I was talking in absolute context of Lagos, because we have had one continuous government in Lagos. We've had Bola Tinubu as governor, passing the baton to his
Isn't it the same thing at the federal level? We've had Obasanjo, Yaradua, Goodluck, all of them have been with the PDP.
It's the same party, but different context. That's why I was talking about the freedom of Lagos. We need Lagos to be freed from the shackles. What we've got in Lagos is that we've had one man monopolize the resources and the people of Lagos, and that cannot continue. That's the issue. That's just the crux of the matter.
There's a feeling, amongst some that your party, the PDP, has not shown enough support to the initiative of the PVC and the card readers. What are your thoughts along that line?
I labored vigorously to pick up my PVC card, so I don't see it as a pulse of the party. If you were to measure from me, I did everything to pick up my PVC. I remember last time I was here, I told you I didn't have it. And I'd been to the collection center a few times and still didn't find. But I ensured that I got it now, and we feel strongly that everyone needs to pick up their PVC.
Up until recently, a pro-Jonathan group came up to say, well, use PVC, but you don't use the smart card readers.
Well, the smart card readers, because they apparently when they did the trials, it failed, or it added too much time to the process. And we don't think that that time is available on the election day. We're just thinking pragmatically.
It's all right. So you're saying that your opinion also would be that the card readers should not be used?
No. I think the card readers, where they work, should be used. I think where they do not work, we do not want anybody disenfranchised because of a process. If everybody has been accredited to be bona fide card owner, I think whether the card reader works or not, we have to adapt as the INEC has proposed, that there's a form that you fill and then you move on. Well, unfortunately, these are the realities that we have to face. The time is short. There's nothing we can do about that. We just want credible elections. We want the results. And we're looking forward to the exchange of battle in the offices. That's it.
On the national level, they say that it's never been this keenly contested.
I have never seen elections this keenly contested in Nigeria.
Could it be maybe the first time that the PDP will lose the seat at the federal level?
I don't think so. I think...
Is it an impossibility?
I don't... I see... What I see or what I know of President Jonathan is that this is a very cultured leader. If, in fact, there is evidence that he has lost the elections, I think he would accept and quit.
Well, the handwriting of the wall is quite different because as at this morning, as a matter of fact, the APCs are waiting the court decision on Buhari's eligibility today. Many are saying that wouldn't that be too much of an anathema for an administration that says it's ready to conduct a free and fair election, and yet there are still people in courts who are discussing the eligibility of the only opponent, so to speak, that he has.
The issue of elections is about the integrity of the elections. And as I said earlier on, I said if INEC had passed it under the Electoral Act that elections, the voters should go there and be accredited and vote and wait. That stands. But if there's a lacuna like it is now with the issue of Buhari,
that's right,
where the law says that they must have O levels, a minimum standard to contesting elections, and that has been proven otherwise. That also must stay, regardless of whose axe is God.
Well, you say it has been proven otherwise. I thought that at the time we saw his school certificate released on the front page of the papers.
And we've also seen so many other challenges on that issue. I have read in newspapers that the WAEC head office in Ghana had issued statement that they do not have any records of Buhari. So how do we say to this matter? They are the umpires. They are the bona fide people to conduct O-level elections. I mean O-level exams, and they said they have no records of Buhari. So where did they get those from? I don't know.
The position of the APC, however, is that think about the chaos and the pandemonium that any unfavorable decision by the court could trigger, you know, just less than 72 hours to the March 28 presidential election.
Yes, but do we set aside the constitutionality because of circumstances, because of what reaction would be? Constitutionality stays rule. I mean, the oath must certainly hold today if we're talking about the constitutional elections. So if the laws say that you must present your school cert as a minimum requirement, then it has to be. It's as simple as that.
Let's quickly open the phone lines and find out what the polls of the viewers are on the show this morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning, welcome to Call Digest. What's your name?
I'm Akim from Ipaja.
Akim, can you please turn down the volume of your TV set?
Okay, I've done that.
All right, go ahead with your contribution, Akim.
Okay, good morning. So I just want to send some information, and I want you to pass it to whoever is concerned. Because there's a politician, Paja, is contesting for National Assembly election, Southwest. So what happened is that he has been boasting that he knows that he's not going to win the election, but he's going to waste people's lives. And he has tendencies for violence. So it's on record. So I want the security to monitor him on that election day, please. Not much as we don't want violence in this election, please. We want peaceful atmosphere during the election. Thank you.
So, thank you very much for your contribution, Akim.
Okay.
I'm sure that the relevant authorities must have noted your contribution. And I think it touched a very important chord when we talk about violence-free election.
Yeah.
You heard what the American president also said about that.
We must have violent-free elections.
Well, would you say that we have had the right steps taken by the politicians ahead of this?
I think the politicians have been rather irresponsible in their conduct and preparation for these elections. I think do or die context or content in these elections have been too high, and that's why this created a very fragile environment. But as it stands now, the duty or the onus is on the president to ensure that there are enough police presence in these elections. That's the only way I feel that we can have the conducive environment for successful elections.
The First Lady was quoted to have said that some people should be stoned. Do you call that also
that was
an allegation that should be prosecuted?
No, I wouldn't say it should be prosecuted because we have freedom of speech, but it's certainly not expected from a First Lady. And I'm sure that she must have had regrets about that statement.
Well, let's also quickly find out MCR's distribution of the PVC. INEC just released recently a comprehensive list of the number of PVCs that have been collected across the 36 states of the country, and it's amazing what the distribution has been. Let's start with Northwest Nigeria, that seem to have the highest number of registered voters ahead the 2015 election. Look at that. Jigawa has 95.98%. It seems to be the highest PVC collection in Nigeria. And then you see Kano with 82.64. The total number, however, of the cards collected in this region is 15,999,398. So you see Jigawa, Kano, Katsina, Kaduna, Kebbi, Sokoto, Zamfara. Good for your party. You seem to have 4 out of those 7 states. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So PDP has 1, 2, 3. I think that's 4 out of the 7 states. But many would say that the northern region, especially the northwest, is a stronghold for the APC presidential candidate. What chances do you think your party has in this region?
You can be sure that our 7 states will be defended. We would hold on to them. We have maintained control, and we have proven to them that that's the alternative. That's the only option to going forward for the state. So I want to believe that PDP will hold on to its 7 states rather than lose any.
Bearing in mind that the APC candidate won in some of the states in previous elections, many say that probably blood is thicker than party this time.
But I don't think people have actually crystallized the crux of these elections. These elections have ultimately have now been defined as a referendum, if you want to say that, because the crux of these elections is, do we want the new constitution implemented where we have a loose center and stronger regions? That's the bottom line. And from what I've been gathering from the opinion polls, from people's polls, I think these elections will ultimately turn out to be a referendum for the implementation of the national.
Do you foresee a landslide victory for any of the two major contenders?
I think it's going to be a close race. I see 45, 55 elections.
Do we have enough structures on ground to arrest post-violence election? I mean, post-election violence, because in 2011 the results weren't even that close, and yet we saw some number of people die.
I think we do. I think we have the manpower to sort of limit anarchy, but the onus for these elections, for the peace of these elections, rest on the leaders. I believe it rests squarely on the shoulders of the leaders. It depends on their utterances. That's why I've been very particular about the utterances of our political leaders. Whether they're on the winning side or otherwise, they have to be cautious. They have to regard other people's rights and ensure that we have a peaceful elections.
That's all right. Let's go to the Southwest. I'm sure you're more comfortable there, and then you've also seen things for yourself here in the Southwest. The Southwest seems to be the next region that has the highest number of registered voters and probably the number of PVCs collected. You see that it's a total of 9,238,713. Some, of course, have also questioned the kind of
data from Lagos.
Different. Okay, you see, Lagos is here. It's 60. The first on the list. You have 65.25.
That's low.
Quite low, because Lagos has the highest number
of voters,
of registered voters. Out of 5 million, 5.8. You see, 3.7 million people collect their PVCs. Could you also put that forth on political parties in that region?
I think Lagos respond to the circumstances on ground. My experience with Lagos, I think people, when they have to give a bit more sacrificially for good, I think sometimes can get really unbothered. They can say, oh well, we've been there twice, we won't bother again. I think that's what's going on there. But it's not good. It's not good enough that we have 15 million and we only have 3.7 million registered. That's poor.
Amazingly, in the last election, APC won the gubernatorial election in Lagos, but it looks as if President Jonathan won the presidential election in Lagos. Do you foresee a repetition of that?
Say that again, President.
I said the APC won the gubernatorial election,
Lagos,
while the PDP won the the presidential election. Quite amazing how that happened.
That doesn't happen in the true political context. I don't know what happened, but you don't find people vote across parties overnight. I don't think that's a pattern in any civilized democracy, but that happened.
It's all right. Let's see, just before we go on this segment, let's see the Southwest just once again on the screen. And you also bear in mind that Lagos is APC, Osun is APC. There are only 2 PDP states in this region. Ondo just defected from the Labour Party to the PDP recently, and there are quite a number of controversies rocking that area about the fact that not all of the party structures left the Labour Party for the PDP.
Yeah, but this is a strong hold of the clamor for the devolution of power and restoration of the country. So I think the votes here in Lagos strongly will rest on the agenda of, are we going to have devolution, or are we going to have a new constitution or not? That's going to be the bottom line, really.
Okay, Ekiti State recently just got back to the PDP, and then you see Oyo and Ogun there for the APC. Some say it's going to be a landslide for the APC in this region. What are your thoughts along this?
Well, the APC has made it, it's been as loud as can be that they are certainly against the restructuring of the country. So I don't know how that would be an asset to them.
It's all right. We have to wrap up this segment. What would be your advice for that average electorate who is passionate about elections on Saturday?
I think we need to be wise. We need to be cautious. We need to ensure that we are not responsible for anarchy of any sort, because we are still must still be our brothers' keepers. Come what may, whether we are across the divide, we're still Nigerians. So I would just strongly recommend that let every Nigerian be first Nigerian before any other tribal or primordial interest.
AKINTOYE, BRANCO-RHODES, thank you very much for finding time to join us today on Call Digest.
Much.
Well, news just in outside Buhari's eligibility suit has been adjourned to April 22nd and April 23rd. That's way after the presidential election, and we just do not know how that will still affect
that's a very wise
decision by the judiciary.
Yeah, because we do not want to divide this country. And as you said, this is extremely sensitive.
Quite sensitive, very sensitive. We'll take a commercial break and we'll be back with more. Stay with us on Call Digest, don't go away.
Has it been a difficult task for you to purchase exquisite, classic, durable and sturdy furniture that will last the test of time? Here is good news for you. Purchase high-quality furniture for your household, offices, hotels and schools at Prince Interior Furnishing and Furniture Company Limited. Office address, Goshen Plaza, Showroom 28, Kubo Furniture Market, AYA, Nyanya Road, Abuja. Telephone 0803-119-1444 or 09291-7482. Email princeemeka240@yahoo.com, info@princeinterior.com, website www.princeinterior.com. Purchase your furniture at Prince Interior Furnishing and Furniture Company Limited. Classic, strong, exquisite.
When is that? How are you, Mr. President? How is the campaign?
We must learn to live together as brothers, or perish together as fools. Martin Luther King, Jr.
The army was not supposed to be visible or to be around any polling unit unless there is a breakdown of law and order and they have been invited by the Inspector General of Police.
That elections are sheltered in Africa is no news. But in Nigeria, it comes with consequences.
Against the will of one man.
Consequences that have toggled the nation's politics and may shape how Nigeria elects.
This is the year of PGP.
The momentum gathers.
When we promise, we deliver.
The fireworks is unending.
We did it and continue to do it.
55 years this year, and in her fourth republic, this is Nigeria's 5th general elections. All the action, all the news, the updates, and the news behind the news we will bring to you live from the field and in the studio on Core TV News as Nigeria elects.
Right, we can't wait to tell the story, just like you cannot wait to write the history as we turn another new page in the political history of Nigeria. I'm joined now by veteran journalist Bola Onanuga is joining us today on Call Digest. Good morning and thank you very much for finding time to come.
You're welcome.
It's all right. Just coming in now, Buhari's eligibility suit has been adjourned to April 22 and 23rd of this year. Some are saying it's indeed a wise decision by the judiciary.
Well, the judiciary has never taken an unwise decision in the past. And nobody will confront them to say that whether they are right or wrong. The judiciary remains the judiciary, and they are the last arbiter in any issue of importance in this country. So I don't see calling it wise or unwise. I don't know.
What would have happened if something, probably the case had gone against the APC presidential candidate just a few hours to a major election?
No, I am aware of some judiciary actions in the time past, in the last 25 years. And I think about 10 years ago, they were actually taken for a seminar whereby they were told point blank, or they were advised, that do not pronounce rulings and judgment that cannot be enforced. For instance, if you say that they should remove the chief of army staff, which military do you want to use to go and remove him? The chair doesn't have military. You just make pronouncement that will have no effect. So the best way to go about it is what they have done. It is the best way. It may not be the wisest, but it is the best way, because they must also not contribute their own problem to the nation's political problems at this point in time. So they did what I think was right at this point in time, because this is the right time to take a right decision. There are times you take right decision at the wrong time, and there are times you take wrong decision at the right time, or right decision at the wrong time. But this is the right decision at the right time.
Well, we're talking about eligibility. It's amazing that both the major contenders had similar case in court. For the PDP presidential candidate, looks as if the court threw that into the trash bin some times ago. But talking about the eligibility of the APC candidate, would you say, from your own perspective, that it's a matter that carries substance and that could still rear its ugly head even after the election?
Well, that is a matter for judiciary to determine. It will be sub judice for us to begin to predict what the outcome of what the judiciary, because it has been adjourned, and so the case is in court. So for us to start talking about whether the man is eligible or not will not be right at this podium.
I understand.
However, the issue of eligibility should not have been left until injury time before such a suit is filed. So you begin to think about those who filed the suit. What were their intentions? I mean, the intention is to get the man disqualified at the last minute so that APC will not have a candidate to fit, because ballot papers have been printed, everything has been done. So what do you now want them to do? You want them to just bring in just anybody? Because this same thing was done several years ago. In 1993, Zeb Abule was the governorship candidate of NRC in Port Harcourt. Now, SDP waited patiently. They allowed the man to be filed in as their governorship candidate in Rivers State. 5 days to the election, the SDP candidate went to court, challenging the eligibility of Zeb Abule. Zeb Abule then was the chairman of one of these banks and is a shipping magnate. On the eve, a day before the election, the man was disqualified actually because he has a criminal record, and they brought his number in prison, the clothes he wore in prison, the offense, and the case that sent him to prison for 6 months. So he was ineligible for the election, so he was removed. Overnight, NRC was the most popular party in Rivers State there. They did everything possible to file in a new candidate. Yes, they brought in somebody, but the person could not even win 10% of the votes. So it was the same thing. I won't say the same people now, but it was the same thing they were planning to do. But thank God for the judiciary.
Let's open the phone lines very shortly and find out what the viewers have to say. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling for Nableva.
What's your name, please? I'm afraid you might have to call back. I can hardly hear you. I can only hear your television. You might have to turn down the volume of your TV set when you call it in so we can do without the feedback distortion. What about the decision of the court on the use of the Nigerian military during election?
Well, I am on the fence with regard to that. But it's both positive and negative. One, over time, the presence of soldiers at any venue, whether political, social, or anything, creates fear in the mind of the people. That's the negative aspect of it. So it might affect people's psychic in coming out to vote. That I quite agree. But on the positive end of it, the police are not capable of handling insecurity that might arise during the election. And we've seen elections in this country that are marked by violence. I mean, between 1999 and 2011, we've seen several elections that were marked by violence. Even 2011 cannot be exonerated from violence. And the intervention of soldiers once in a while has helped to put things right. For instance, the fear of the APC that went to court was that it might be used to intimidate voters in their own area, in their strongholds. Well, while they may be right, I also believe that they are not capable of controlling even their own constituent voters, who may also take the law into their hands. For instance, a few days ago, the OPC were on the road, carrying guns, carrying all sorts of things. On the day of election, if you allow the likes of OPC to take the law into their or mass up, or all this minority and pocket-like militia to take the law into their hands, who will you call? You will still say that is the PDP or the federal government that is careless about it. So I don't think the decision of the judiciary was outrightly right at that point. But it's also, like I said, it is a judgment they cannot enforce. Because if you say the soldier could not come, already soldiers have been deployed to state. Because a few days ago, about a week now, I was somewhere in Ogba, and then suddenly everybody was running helter-skelter. What was happening? Sirens were blowing left and right. And then we saw more than 50 vehicles, military vehicles. It includes the police, let's call them armed forces, police, navy, the civil defense corps, and all sorts. And everybody was carrying guns. They were sitting on top of those vehicles. In fact, you have armored tank and all sorts of vehicles there. The purpose was that, yes, it was on Saturday. The purpose was to tell people that, look, we are not just in power, we're also in control. So that if you want to create violence, please look at the hardware and the software we have for you.
And think twice.
And think twice about your action. So I think the decision of the judiciary, they cannot enforce that law. That is one. Two, we need the soldiers on ground. Whether APC or PDP likes it, we need the soldiers on ground. The level of their needs is what I don't know. Because I realize that in Edo State, they use the soldiers, and the opposition won there. They didn't create any fear there. In Ondo State, it was an opposition that won there as well. That is under Mimiko, Labour Party. They use soldiers there. In Ekiti, they use soldiers there. Another party, PDP, won. So I don't see why you should say that soldiers should not participate in a major election of this nature, because the police are incapacitated to handle the situation. Nigerians don't have any respect for our police, for our brothers and sisters in that profession. It's too unfortunate, because we see them as civilians. We see them that they cannot hurt. We see them that we can easily take them to court, and also they don't live in the barrack. They live next door to many Nigerians. So they are just like your next door neighbor. So we don't have that level of respect. But the courtesy we have for the soldiers is not respect, actually. It's fear.
Hello.
Let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Hi, Idoko.
From Abulegba. Can you, what's the name again?
Idoko from Abulegba.
All right, please go ahead with your contribution.
My contribution is that concerning the eligibility of Buhari. Is it the first time of him contesting of this presidential aspect? So many accusations have been coming in order to disqualify him from not participating. Is it the right thing? There are so many things that are going on in this country. No one is talking about it. They are only talking about themselves.
It's all right. I believe you made your point there. Thank you very much for calling. It's not the first time, but it appears it's the first time he's carrying so much weight.
But even at that,
as a contender.
Even at that, the mere fact that somebody contested once with the same qualification does not mean he could not be investigated, or that they could not find something wrong in what he has presented. What he presented at that time, people may not even bother, because they knew that, well, as a former military head of state, he's qualified to be there. But now, people will dig further to even look at what are his credentials. So there is nothing bad in checking it. The only thing that is wrong was that you waited for this long to come and start all this ulabalu, which does not make any sense as far as I'm concerned.
Let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Good morning, welcome to Call Digest. What's your name?
Hello?
We can hear you clearly. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good morning, my name is Isa. I'm calling from Kano.
Isa, can you turn down the volume of your TV set?
My name is Isa. I'm calling from Kano.
All right, go ahead, please, with your contribution.
There is something I want to say on the issues of security during the election time. He mentioned that Nigerians doesn't respect police. What is the cause that Nigerians are not respecting police? So there is no need. Army are not trained in order to give peace. Army are trained to kill people. There is no any reason for government to start deploying armies to strategic things. This is wrong. Constitution has clearly provided that police are the ones responsible to provide security during the election. So it's wrong for a government to decide to involve army into internal. Army are designed to protect Nigeria against external, or if there is war. But there is no war in Nigeria. So it is election. Let the government allow people to come and cast their vote peacefully without harassment, without pay. If there is pay, then there will not be a free and fair election. Let each Nigerian have in their mind that I'm going to cast my vote freely without intimidation by police, without intimidation by army. So I see no reason for government to bring army in this election. Thank you very much. My name is Isa Garba from Kano State.
Thank you, Isa from Kano. Good to hear from you. I think everything boils down to the confidence of the electorate in the security agencies and the question of how truly independent these agencies are at this time.
I think as Nigerians, we have what we call trust deficiencies in ourselves. The next person to you, you are afraid that he could cheat you. Politicians themselves, they're the greatest cheats. From all levels, whether it's a Christian party or a Muslim party or Babalawo's party, they are the greatest cheats of all time. They want to win at all costs. So, and when you have these problems, we are not good losers and we are not good winners. We are winners. We do the business of winner takes all. And that's a zero-sum game. In politics, that's zero-sum game that you want to kill the opponent that has lost at all costs. That is why we have all this problem we're having. In peaceful time in other countries, they use soldiers. For instance, the man, whether older than me or not, made mention of the fact that the police are meant for internal solutions, while the other one is meant for external protection. That's the soldiers. But you realize that in America, where you have any little things like fire outbreak, like this, they don't leave it to the fire service alone. The military will be called in to join in quenching the fire. So it's not about politics alone. If there is riot in some places in the past, we are always quick at saying that they should bring in the soldiers to quench it. But now, because it is now politics, we are beginning to think that people will use the military against their opponent. Fine. If I were in their shoes, I would think the same way. Because the way both PDP and APC are going about this business, they are the two large parties that we have. And the way the two of them are going about it is that we must win at all costs.
But what makes the Nigerian military or the soldiers more susceptible to being used by politicians than the police, if that is the case?
No, it's not by the politician, it's by the ruling party.
Okay.
They assume that the ruling party appoints all the armed forces chiefs, and therefore, you will see that they have also been accusing the police of same, that police are likely to support the ruling party. In our environment, such distrust will still reign for a long time to come. There is nothing we can do about it. it is just because we're a peculiar people in a peculiar nation.
Let's look at the stance of the IGP on some of the electoral matters. For the second time, he is insisting that voters should vote and go home. He mentioned it again in Abuja yesterday at a stakeholders forum. Unlike the opinion of many other political stakeholders who are of the opinion that what they mean when they say defend your vote is vote and wait till it's counted. What are your thoughts along that line?
Well, the issue is not about you waiting. You are not the one that will count. That's one. Two, you have card readers. That is two. Three, there will be commotion if every voter had to wait at the polling booth. Those who are against this party or against that party, they might start stoning each other. We heard that 2 people died yesterday, somewhere where PDP and APC supporters met. If you leave the 2 of them to wait at the polling booth, what if there's a breakdown of law and order? You will overpower the police because they will not put 100 policemen in one polling booth. So his position, I think, sincerely, if he's sincere about what he's saying, because I cannot read his mind. I'm not a card reader and I'm not a mind reader. But I can tell you that what he has said is in order. Okay. Because don't forget that every party has a polling agent. Your polling agent is the one that will be around.
That will represent the party.
You will represent every party there. And they are the ones that you hang there. Since 1979 that I've been covering, reporting about politics in Nigeria and discussing it effectively, I have come to realize that hanging around polling booths does not help anything. You just hang there at your own peril. If somebody will just come and start trouble, and then all of you will start running helter-skelter. So the advice of the IGP, if it's genuinely meant it along the line of my own thought, I think it's not that.
Before we let you go today, let's go through some prediction along the geopolitical zones. INEC released official PVC collection rate across the states in Nigeria. Let's start with the Northwest. Interestingly, the Northwest seemed to have the highest number of PVC collected as at March the 22nd. Of course, the PVC collection, I believe, has ended, except for some 4 local governments in Edo State, where it will be ending on the 25th of March. Is today the 25th? I think it should be ending very soon. All right, this is the Northwest, and it has 15,999,398 cards collected as at 22nd of March. Jigawa there has the highest number of PVC collected. Jigawa, Kano, Katsina, Kaduna, Kebbi, Sokoto, and Zamfara. Of course, PDP has about 4 states in all of them all, but many are saying that the Northwest is a stronghold for the APC. What do you think?
Well, I am not too comfortable with all those predictions. The fact that you have the highest number of voters or highest number of cards collected does not really translate that all these people will come out on the day of election.
To vote.
To vote. That is one. Two, there will still be many Nigerians, as we are talking now, by all the predictions I've read, we still have about 30% Nigerians that have not even made up their mind. So, and they are all spread all over.
On whether to vote or who to vote for.
Who to vote for, okay. And whether to even come out to vote. They are undecided yet. They're still waiting to decide their positions. So, all these predictions. Then two, some states that we assume, for instance, in Katsina State, where Buhari came from, he had never won from there in the past. All the time he has been out for election, he had never won, even in his local government. This time around, there might be a change. Change because it's about the most popular candidate by noise making. Yes, because nothing has been translated to anything. Until we see the result of the election, we cannot predict. But it's about the most popular today in this country, from what we have seen on the ground. And that is because they are looking at his incorruptible personality, the fact that he's been there for a long time struggling. But I can also tell you that all the presidents we have elected since 1999 have never been elected on merit. We have elected them on the basis of sympathy and moral suasion. It's not on the basis of any merit, any justification that you can place on the table. For instance, in 1999, there was sympathy for Obasanjo because he was coming out of jail. and that people believe that he was unjustly imprisoned. Yaradua was rewarded because of his uncle, Shehu Musa, who did everything for the Nigerian politics, yet lost his life in prison under Abacha. So it was that sympathy that brought in Yaradua. In the case of Jonathan, it was a sympathy for South-South. And the man equally celebrated it by saying that he went to school without shoe. So people, again, sympathize. Now, it is the same sympathy that the two major candidates are having. I will tell you that South-South, they believe that because every presidential candidate in Nigeria in the past, they have always spent 2 terms. Therefore, President Jonathan should be given an opportunity to repeat the class again, just like all his predecessors. That is one. For Buhari, they said the man has stayed too long outside government, and that at his old age, he can no more steal money. Therefore, it should be sympathized with and go there. We have been bothered more about sympathy rather than looking at the real issue that will help us to move on. So I don't see, by all this countdown that we're looking at, I don't see the prediction working. For instance, there will be shocks in some states that even APC thought is their own stronghold. And there will be shocks in some PDP Kano because they will not be able to parry the Kano through.
Another, place of interest would be the Northeast. If we can quickly have the table on the screen. The Northeast has been bedeviled by some level of terrorism for the past. Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, Gombe, Taraba, Yobe are the states under this category. Adamawa recently was declared free from Boko Haram, what do they call it now? Taking over territories recently by the Nigerian military. But amazingly, look at the percentage of the PVCs collected. This was the same reason why the elections were postponed in the first place. Out of 9 million registered voters, over 7 million got their PVCs. Does that tell you a story?
Yes, it was still on the same program that we said it some weeks ago when the election was postponed. And people were making noise, and I said, look, more people who have the privilege of getting their PVC. That is the advantage you've had. And I said the Boko Haram will be pushed back, whatever it is. And the strategy has worked. In some of those states now, there is what we call confidence in the system. You will realize that more people will want to come out to exercise their voting rights simply because they now believe that they have wiped off the Boko Haramists. Though INEC said they will not conduct election even in those new territories that have been captured, because you cannot send your own daughter or son to go and do INEC job in a place like Bama.
The military also, insists that there has to be government structure replaced before they can start talking about election in those communities. But do you foresee that spreading across the Northeast region?
It won't. The Boko Haramists have been weakened, actually. And there was no time they took over a state, except we were just celebrating errors. They had taken over some strategic town in some local governments, even not a whole local government. They just took over some strategic towns. So those strategic towns have been flushed out in some state. Now, I read it this morning that 500 or 400 were taken away in some points. Those are just a weak approach to their strategy in the past. When they take all these people, they will execute some of them, and put their flags there. Now they don't have the time now. So they have been weakened structurally and financially. And this is what President Jonathan ought to have done in the time past. But thank God, it's never too late. He's doing it now. So I see more people turning out to exercise their voting rights, even in the Northeast.
And that's quite interesting. But you also recall that one of the states there will be Adamawa that was slipped from the APC. The former governor there was one of those that defected, to the APC. There are just 2 APC states now as it is. But do you see the PDP taking it all in this region, especially with the efforts of the regional force?
Well, I don't see PDP will not take everything. APC will make their own impact as well. I see APC winning. I see them sharing anyway, but maybe 50-50. from the two parties. But it could be 4/2, it could be 3-3, but the result cannot be more than 60-40 at the worst scenario.
Before we go on the show today, let's see the South-South. They say that's more of a comfortable zone for the PDP and its presidential candidate. You have Edo, Delta, Bayelsa, Akwa Ibom. You have Rivers, you have Cross Rivers PDP. For Rivers State, the deputy governor just recently defected to the PDP.
2 days ago.
About 2 days ago, right? You know, went back to the PDP. And many are saying that's really a game changer for the PDP in that state. Quite troublesome in the days preceding to the election, given the Okrika violence and some other pockets of violence. For Rivers State in this election, do you foresee any landslide victory for both parties?
No, it's going to be a very narrow victory for either. And I see PDP winning narrowly there. Because what happened 2 days ago that the deputy governor suddenly decamped was a major shock.
Some have questioned the electoral value of a deputy governor.
Well, I am not on ground in Rivers State to know the electoral value, but I also will tell you that Wike has electoral value there. Being chief of staff, being a very close ally of Army chief for a very long time, and the crossing over now of the deputy is an additional value. It may, on paper, the deputies are just figureheads, but in reality, they are representing a section of a particular community. And those community, they will have done their homework and they are ready to go along with them. But Amechi is a very strong power broker there. He too, I'm sure he will not be sleeping. So he's likely to be planning his way out of the system. But in that region, I don't see APC taking more than one state.
Rivers too is one of the 3 states that have been highlighted by the NHRC as violence-prone ahead of this rescheduled election. Do you foresee the non-use of the military as a drawback to the efforts of peacekeeping?
Are you sure the judgment have been served?
Okay, I'm sure you also talked about the enforcement earlier.
Are you sure they have been served? Because nobody will collect the rulings from them. It has happened several times. They will say they have not seen it. It's not PDP you want to serve it on. It's the presidency. Which belief will go to the presidency to serve it? How do you cross the bar of House Rock to go and serve what? You put it at the gate. Nobody will sign for you. So the election will have gone. Before they start talking about they are not obeying, they are not obeying. During OBJ's tenure, so many rulings were made. Several of them, he will blatantly refuse to accept. And the instruction goes down, the whole thing. So nobody is going to obey that instruction. I can assure you of that.
Let's look at Edo State. For Edo, the governor there is a second-term governor with the All Progressives Congress as 68.81% of PVCs collected. But Edo also has seen his own days of defection. There was a time about 4 or 5 members of the House of Assembly defected from the APC to the PDP. The opposition, which happens to be the PDP, is also growing strong in that region. Do you see the Oshomole popularity making it for the APC, you know, on Saturday?
Yeah, the popularity of Oshomole will make them win. They will win that state.
Okay.
Comfortably.
You sound so comfortable with that.
I'm very comfortable with that. What I'm not comfortable with is Rivers.
Okay.
It's going to be a narrow victory for either party.
Akwa Ibom, they say, is a walkaway for the PDP, given the work that the governor has done.
Yeah, well, they will, even though the governor broke down a few days ago when his deputy also decamped. But irrespective of that, wherever he is, he will do everything to make sure that he wins.
Bayelsa has only 548,585 PVCs collected. It's the home state of the president.
It's a comfortable victory.
President.
It's a comfortable victory.
99.9.
If you, except for OBJ in 1999, when the Yoruba rose against him because of his role in June 12th, his role after June 12th, rather, that he didn't respect the people's wish. That was the only time the Yoruba has ever risen against their own, or the only tribe that has ever risen against one of them. So I don't see that happening anywhere again.
Okay, we're rounding up now. What particular role do you see the electorate play? You know, you overheard the message of the American president to Nigerians earlier this week, where he was emphasizing how important it is for us to conduct ourselves peacefully ahead of the polls. What role, what patriotic role do you expect the average Nigerian to play on Saturday?
Well, the first rule in an election is that everybody must come out to exercise
the franchise.
So I expect that. Then people must conduct themselves in a proper manner, in a non-violent and peaceful manner. I expect that from the electorate. Be that as it may, the parties themselves are the cause of these situations. If it is peaceful, it is the parties. If it is violent, it is the parties. A situation where a militia group was let loose on Lagosians, and people spent hours inside the go-slow, seeing boys carrying guns, bottles all about, carrying fire, carrying all sorts of things. It portends violence in itself. A situation where you find people talking about corruption here and there, where you cannot prove. You're saying they gave 6 billion to some men of God, they gave so amount to some monarchs, they gave so amount to some leaders and elders and also. We should not say things that are inflammable, things that you cannot readily substantiate. And when you say this, you make the average person on the road to run mad. So the leaders are questionable in their utterances. The politicians themselves are questionable in their utterances. Community leaders also have roles to play. I mean, I expect a monarch in a particular, the leader, what do you call them? The first class traditional ruler, the chairman of the Traditional Rulers Council, to go on TV and radio broadcast on the eve of that election on Friday in all the communities all over the country, for them to tell their people, don't let our own be a bad example in this country. These are the things parties should spend money on, not going to be talking about somebody is saying soldiers should not come, somebody is saying that somebody is not eligible, and also those are wrong things to do.
On the contrary, however, we saw the president and the APC presidential candidate hugging each other, smiling at each other at the recently conducted River State gubernatorial primary. We also saw all of the stakeholders in arms hugging each other. But has that really translated into actual peace?
No, that's cosmetic. It's cosmetic. It's just like a wedding ceremony. It does not translate to good marriage. So what they are doing is just to pretend that they are friends and all sorts. They are not friends. If you say you are somebody's friend, you still go back to go and sponsor some people that the person is not eligible. Is that friendship? Or you say somebody is your friend and you still go about to be saying that the person is very corrupt. Is that eligible? Those are not wrong things. Those are wrong things to do. So what we have is cosmetic relationship, not actual.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Bola Lanuga is a veteran journalist. We hope to see you Saturday as we count down to the general elections. Thank you very much for coming today.
My pleasure.
And so rather, onus seems to lie on you and I to conduct ourselves peacefully as Nigeria makes history. We can't wait to report the story as we open a new page in the political history of Nigeria. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. We will be again, God willing, tomorrow for another exciting edition of the show. Stick with us and don't miss the top of the hour news.
One is, how are you, Mr. President? How is the campaign?
We must learn to live together as brothers, or perish together as fools. Martin Luther King, Jr.
army was not supposed to be visible or to be around any polling unit unless there is a breakdown of law and order and they have been invited by the Inspector General of Police.
That elections are shouted in Africa is no news. But in Nigeria, it comes with consequences.
Against the will of one man.
Consequences that have toggled the nation's politics and may shape how Nigeria elects.
This is the year of PGP.
The momentum gathers.
When we promise, we deliver.
The fireworks is unending.
We did it and continue to do it.
55 years this year, and in her fourth republic, this is Nigeria's 5th general elections. All the action, all the news, the updates, and the news behind the news we will bring to you live from the field and in the studio on Core TV News as Nigeria elects.